Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are and whenever you are. Welcome to another episode of the Community Live Stream. My name is Chuck Tomasi. I am the ServiceNow guy with the cool bow tie, coming to you with another episode and trying to determine where my cursor is. Wrong computer. Too many computers here. I am here to bring you another episode of the Community Live Stream so that I can work on 3 computers at once. This is so much fun. A one-man show. Make sure that we have the stream up and running. Yes, it is. As you can tell, I have rebranded with the company colors, the new logos that were introduced at ServiceNow, at Knowledge, all of that good stuff, and verifying that everything is up and running. That was one of those oh dear moments this morning when I went, let's do the live stream. I need a new title screen. I need to figure out what the colors are for the banners. Let's do one of these things, like close enough to whatever's matching in the background. I don't know if that's the official RGB colors or not. I can't even set these by RGB colors. But anyway, that's aside the point. I want to bring you the best information as possible. This is an hour or so where I go through our community over at community.servicenow.com. I pull out things that are behind me. My specialty is in the platform, which is custom applications, integrations, and occasionally I'll diverge into other areas. Good morning, Jonah. Good morning, Carolyn. Love to hear from you. Hope you had a wonderful week. Sorry I wasn't around. Couldn't do this while I was at Knowledge. It was a bit intense last week, from dawn till dusk and then some. So very happy to be back. Hope everybody who did go to Knowledge had a wonderful time, learned a lot, and can take those things back to your organizations and implement them and have a fresh start on getting those things done. It is a wonderful week. Already looking forward to next year. This is probably the first time I've ever gotten up quite literally the next week and said, I'm getting ready for next year. Usually I need a cooling down period. And we'll see how that goes. But right now, I'm very excited to be looking forward to have some ideas about how we can improve, what we can bring next year, how it's going to grow. But we'll talk about Knowledge a little later, I suspect. But for the community, if you've got a community question, if you've got a question about your instance, you've got a question about ServiceNow platform, the product, however that goes, put it into the community at community.servicenow. If you are watching this live, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I just need to scroll a wee bit to see what's going on that window. Give me a shout out. Love to find out where you're from, how things are going. We've got viewers from all over the globe. I met many of you at Knowledge. Thank you very much. If I had 10 more minutes, I would have remembered to put in some selfies. Maybe I'll do that on tomorrow's show because there were lots and lots of selfies. And just drop one of those in when I'm thinking or talking about something. We can do that. It's a whole lot of fun. And I'm having a good time with this. I'm glad to be back. Glad to have the new colors up and running. Let's get into it. But first, I want to mention that we will be also using a free personal developer instance. This comes to us courtesy of developer.servicenow.com, where you can get a free developer instance on any of the latest releases, Kingston, Jakarta, Istanbul, as of this recording, or whenever you're watching this, it will have the 3 latest releases there. Hope it's still 3. Maybe it's 2. Maybe we changed. I don't know. You're going to have to go look. And you can play, you can learn, you can sandbox, you can turn on plugins, you can do proof of concepts without affecting your enterprise. If you want to make changes and bring them over as an update set or bring them over as a scoped application, you can certainly do that with developer.servicenow.com. We also have meetups. The developer meetups are always under the events menu there. Excuse me. Time for my first cup of tea of this session. And it's hot, which is why I have the lid off. So it doesn't stay hot for the entire show. It'll cool down at some point and I'll get to drink it. But thank you very much. Let's see, we have the scripting APIs over at developer.servicenow.com. Don't forget to check those out. We will probably be referencing those at least once during this show, depending on what articles we pull up. This is completely random. It's completely unscripted. I am just going to look and try and help. That's what this whole community is all about. Greatest community on the world. I am broadcasting this on YouTube live at 1 p.m. UTC every day. So whatever part of the world you're in, you do the math from there, whether you're doing daylight saving or not, like Arizona is. Coming to you from sunny Phoenix, Arizona, by the way, if you're watching for the first time. Or if you are watching it later, you get the idea. We are also doing this on Twitch. So if you care to watch over there, as we have viewers as well, twitch.tv. Again, say hi in the chat. If you've got a comment about what we're working on, sometimes the old brain gets stuck. And I'm like, what? Wait, I'm missing something. Feel free to contribute, jump in, and we'll all help. We've had wonderful, wonderful conversations going back and forth in the chat to assist the conversation going forward. There is a bit of a latency, about 8 to 10 seconds between the time I say something and the time you actually see it. And of course, then you've got to type it and turn it around. So it's not going to be an immediate conversation, but given the technology and the timing, that's as good as we're going to do for now. All right, that's enough of the preliminaries. Let's get into the community that I have right behind me. You can see it was rebranded. I believe it was Sunday, what would that have been? The 6th of May? Yeah, 6th of May. So it's been a few days, and I have just gotten my first chance to officially get my fingers on this thing this morning. That's how crazy it's been. Knowledge. I'm going to start, as I usually do, by going down here. Everything is in the same place, but it just looks a little different. We don't have the black banner across the top. We've got the new logo. We've got a couple of features that were implemented, a couple of fixes that were there. But in general, this is still our community that we've been using for the last few months. I am going to start with all unreplied. Need help on manual approvers state change to requested. Let's take a look at that. Approvers are usually done through workflows, as some of you may know. How do I connect? You know what? Let's take these one at a time. Not sure why that popped up over there. Let's do it this way. That's my inbox. Hi, everyone. Excuse me. Try that again. Hello, everyone. Hello. Need a help when we add manual approvers to requested item. It is showing state as not yet requested, but it shows as requested. Please let me know any pointers how we can achieve this on approval table. You need to use a manual approval activity. I'm going to go to my developer instance to demonstrate this. Go to the workflow editor, probably not the orchestration one. Nice thing about the personal developer instance, you can turn on plugins that would ordinarily cost you money, such as discovery or orchestration, and work with those, test them out, see what happens. I am going to go and create a new workflow. I don't know if I'm in a scope or not. I didn't even check. Yes, I am. Well, that's lovely, but we won't save this. Let's create a new one just called manual approval on the change table. Change request. There it is. Don't need any conditions when this will fire. It's going to be for demonstration purposes only. I want to give a screenshot to demonstrate what the manual approval looks like. And you can see I've got a few extra tabs up here in the upper right because I have enabled orchestration. It gives me a few extra activity types, but the main ones are going to be right here under core. These are the activities you get out of the box. If there was a box for cloud software, I don't know. Good morning, Chad. Glad you had a great time in Atlanta. All the banners are down. Let's see. We have approval user, manual approvals. That is what you would use for this. And I go to change and say, give it a name, manual approval. And it says, wait for any manual approval of the group, wait for all manual approvers. What do you want to do with those? And when I submit that, it puts it on the workflow. And because I dropped it in the right place, it is already hooked up to the blue wires. So my answer to that is you need to use a manual approval activity in the appropriate place in the workflow. You can then define whether or not to use all approvers or any approvers, just like a user approval activity. And we'll throw in our lovely little screenshot. There it is. Desk bell 1. I feel like it's a new year. There's like fiscal years and then there's knowledge years. Now that knowledge is over, I feel like, I can relax and take a breath. There's new colors on the website, new colors on the bow tie. I had a lot of questions about that, by the way. Are you going to be getting a new bow tie? You may have even heard me say something on here. Well, times change, evolve or die. Good morning to you if you are just joining me. Thank you. This is the community live stream where I, Chuck Tomasi from ServiceNow, Senior TPMM for the Now platform, go through random stuff in our community, pulling out what I can, helping where I can, encouraging you to do the same thing, but not only providing the answers, but understanding how I got to those answers. Sometimes it's obscure knowledge, sometimes it's experience, sometimes it's digging through the docs, sometimes it's let's go play with that and find out. I have one of those later. I hope to be able to get to it regarding a previous thread that happened over the weekend. And I want to test something. I've got a theory about a feature, a field on one of our features or capabilities that I haven't used yet. And I want to see what the impact is. So we're going to do a little experimentation. Chad asks, any idea when London will be released? The answer is Q3. That's as close as I know. I've heard rough dates, but I'm not at liberty to say them because I'm going to say safe harbor. Anything can change at this point. But it will be Q3. So sometime prior to, what does that make it? September 30th? We're good to go. And you can expect to see it on the personal developer instances as soon as early access is out. So we have two major dates that you can be aware of. Early access, when partners or customers who say, hey, I really, really want to get on London very soon. As soon as it's available, we have early access. And that is usually 4 to 6 weeks before what we call market launch. So worst case scenario is if London were released on September 30th, then you could have access to it on your personal developer instance as well around end of August. So play with that. Best case is it's more than likely going to be somewhere late August, early September. So you could have London on your personal developer instance mid-July to late July timeframe. So keep an eye out for those announcements. You'll be hearing about them as we go forward in June. They'll start talking about release dates for July, August, September, that kind of thing. So good question. Wish I had more solid information that I could not get fired about if I was wrong or if I gave it out or whatever that happens to be. All right, quick refresh of this one. Can we update asset management information based on change request? I am not strong into asset management, particularly software asset management, so I'm going to shy away from this. This is more for the ITSM, ITAM, IT asset management crowd. Not my specialty. I can take a look. It's always fun to dig in and see what people are doing and what they're asking. Sometimes it's, say, an HR question and they need a choice list modified, and they've just never modified a choice list. That's pretty cool. You can always try and help that way. Can we maintain update asset management information based on change request? Little more specific about, can you be more specific on what the business requirement is? About what the business requirement is. Perhaps a use case or an example of what you're trying to do. Always remember, when you post a question into the community, please post it in the right forum. If this is an ITSM related question, certainly post it in the ITSM, in this case, IT service management space or forum, as we call them now. If you've got something related more towards reporting or the platform in general, you're stuck on a scripting question, those go in the appropriate areas as well. So check what space you're putting this in so that you maximize your chance of getting the right people to look at it so that you can get it answered quickly and have that conversation. Also remember to include any details, error messages, things that would be helpful. What is the business case? I am guilty of this as much as anybody is. How can I solve my technical question? Can I do this? Back up a little bit so you give the reader some context of what you're trying to do. What is the business requirement? They may say, no, that's not really a good place for a business rule. That might be more of a case for this other thing. So we've got different ways of solving problems depending on what your requirements are. So please let us know what the requirements are. Good morning, John G. And thank you everybody for watching this. I appreciate that. Maybe you heard about this at Knowledge. Maybe you've heard about it from a friend. Maybe you spotted it on YouTube from a random search. We don't know. I'd like to know. I know some people have been watching this since it started almost 6 months ago, and some people are just joining for the first time. So that's pretty cool. Ticket conversation widget, service portal. We need a separate. I'm going to get a new T-shirt that says Service Portal Forum, please. I have a requirement for the Service Portal ticket form should place any updates from the caller as opposed to open by, which means if we change the caller and post the comment, it comes in the left section of the page. Other than that, it comes in the right section. I don't know that this little conversation widget is that configurable. Wow. It means if we change the caller and post the comment, it comes to the left side of the page. Other than that, it comes to the right section. We want that comment locked by Lavanya should come to the right side. Because Lavanya is not the caller. I'm not sure who Lavanya is or what role she plays here. Let me read that again. Should place any updates from the caller as opposed to open by, which means if we open by the caller, it's not real clear who did what in this, but as far as I know, this isn't modifiable in that way. I'm not saying I'm the ultimate authority on this. It could be. Two options for you here. Let me scroll that up a little bit. I'm going to try to make that a little bigger so you can read it. Two options I see, and someone may have more. Have more. Option one, see if you can locate this widget, copy it, and modify it to be your own and do what you want. Option two, submit an enhancement request. I don't believe that the widget is modifiable, is configurable. Let's do that in the way you want. If option one doesn't work, see enhancement. Yay, the macros still work. Never know. It's been a while. It's been over, what, 10 days? I think the last show was on the 3rd. We're getting there on the tea. Almost drinkable. Without burning tongue cells. Ding! Come on, let's have some fun. It may be morning for you, it may be evening. If you are joining, thank you. My name is Chuck Tomasi, going through the community, looking for anything I can help with. Attached scheduled report. You know what? Let's refresh this because it's been a few minutes. As I type, things change. Imagine that. How do I connect import assets with contracts in an import set? I don't know. Assets are not my thing. Attach scheduled report as attachment rather than sending as email. I thought there was a way to do that. Hope someone can help. Is it possible to have a schedule report attached to a ticket rather than sending it as an email receipt? If so, how do I attach this, please? I thought they were looking for an attachment in the email. Not that I know. What is the point of having it as a... Let's find out what the requirement is. Not that I know. If it is possible, it would require a bit of coding. Can you help me understand what the requirement is? Normally, people want real-time data, so they set up a dashboard, or they email a report as a backup plan. What are you trying to accomplish? And why? Or is this just is it possible? / research purposes. Some people, God bless them, and this is what the community is also good for, is they get requirements and they don't know how to implement them. So they want to know, hey, what is possible? This is a great use case for the community, is when you get a requirement and you don't know how to implement it, or you don't know if it's possible, reach out to the community and say, I'm exploring. Is this possible? Oh, I did a reply. Sorry, a little bit of attention deficit here. And find out what is the level of effort, if it is possible. It may be, open up this form, configure this, create a record here, and you're done. Other cases, it may be you have quite a bit of scripting to do. And understand what the cost is to doing that implementation. If it's scripting, there's going to be more level of effort for development. There's going to be more level of effort for testing. There's going to be a higher risk of upgrades. So be aware of what those costs and risks are and pass those back to the person or party making those requirements and saying, hey, we'd like to have attachments, reports as attached to a ticket. First of all, when you do a report, it's usually across a wide span of data. So what are you attaching it to? I don't know. That wasn't clear in here. But if you could and say, you know what, this is going to take about 40 hours of development. We're going to need to test it on every upgrade. It's going to have a cost of implementation. Is it worth it to you to do that risk? It's no different than any other requirement that you get. You're not doing a service, and I want to repeat that. You are not doing anyone a service as a developer or an admin if you are blindly implementing requirements. Somebody says, you must do this. This is what we want. You have an obligation as a professional to let them know what it will cost, what are the risks, and your recommendations. Say, no, we can't do it that way, or we shouldn't do it that way because of X, Y, and Z. Here is an alternative with less risk, less time, less cost. If they're persistent, make sure you have documentation that says, we accept this risk, we accept this cost. Because you know who it comes back to when it comes time to do an upgrade in 6 months or a year? It comes back to you as the implementer. I've seen this time and time again. I've got 8 years of experience as a ServiceNow implementer. I've got 10 years on the platform, and I've got over 35 years in the IT industry as mainly a software developer. And I have seen this over and over again. The developer is often the one that gets thrown under the bus when it comes to, well, this is a bunch of crap. No, it's not a bunch of crap because the developer wasn't working with the process owner or whomever is making these requirements I had a predecessor. I think I've used this story before, so apologies if it was a repeat. I had a predecessor at a former company who was in charge of the CRM system, and they would blindly put fields on the form, write scripts that were out of control. And I inherited that after a couple of years of him doing this chaotic, non-process driven development. I don't know if you call it non-DevOps or what it was. And they gave it to me and said, this software sucks. It's not the software that sucked. The software was fine. It was that this guy would put the same checkbox. A random salesperson would come and say, hey, you know what would be nice is if I had a checkbox here or a drop down there or to help me do this. Well, it was helping that one person. They weren't talking as a group. They weren't figuring out what the sales process was. There wasn't any leadership involvement to help govern and guide that process. And as a result, the developer was everyone's best friend and nobody's best friend at the same time. Hey, Chris, can you put this checkbox on the form? Sure, I'll have that done for you this afternoon. Nobody else is using that. There may even be another checkbox or another field that fulfills that functionality for someone else. Now you can't get decent reports out of this thing. Well, maybe one person's getting some kind of report out of it, but it's just a big old mess. So don't blindly implement things without understanding. Ask why. Why do we need these attachments on the ticket? What are they for? Who is consuming them? How many people does that include? Is this a worthwhile effort, or is it somebody's flight of fancy that they thought would be a neat idea? Understand those things, and you will get a better picture of what the impact is to the organization. Obviously, there's role power. If the CEO says they need something, you better find a way to do it or have a good reason for them why you can't. And you know what? They're just people. They have random thoughts too. So don't think that the CEO is all powerful. You have the ability as a developer and admin to say, this is a costly implementation. I don't think it's wise. They'll appreciate you for it. They'll go, wow, this guy's not just a yes man. He's not just saying, yes, sir, I can get it done, only to find out when you upgrade to London or Madrid that you just involved another $10,000 or $30,000 or $300,000 worth of redevelopment because they said, why is this so hard to upgrade? Well, because so-and-so put in this implementation that you asked for this crazy attached to the ticket. I'm using that as an example, of course. So, Ashley, thanks for joining. This is sort of where I try to involve some of the thought process in my head. That was a very short reply to a question, but there's more to it that I want, and that's the primary reason why I do this video. That and it chews up time. Just kidding. Okay, on to the next one. I'm picking these at random. They have no orchestration and JDBC connection. Let's take a look. I'm not strong in orchestration. It is really just, oops, I didn't want to open that in a new window. I wanted to open a new tab, but that's okay. Just got to remind self, where did all my other tabs go? Hello, team. I'm trying to create a JDBC connection for data source with an SQL server. I have an SQL query with me. I can apply the query in SQL statement, but we have field-like IDs that it's dynamic. I need to know how to get the value of the same field. Please help me. That's beyond my orchestration capabilities, unfortunately. The orchestration is going to go through a mid-server. I haven't experimented with orchestration quite that much. I've dabbled with it here and there. How do I connect import sets? We already looked at that. Is there a cloud billing API? Darned if I know. That's in ITOM. Client script is not working in UI 16. Let's find out. And if you're using DOM manipulation, shame on you. This is where customization came from. But hi all, I've written a client script to add a new clickable image / button to the main header before the chat icon. Works perfectly in UI 15, not in 16. Sample code. Unload event function. Try if your user has roles. Then I'm going to put this link up on top. And we're using jQuery, connect toggle button, insert before tool, Connect toggle button header sidebar before translation to. Is anyone face same issue? This is a case of customization, not working in upgrades. Okay. Clickable image / button in main header. I recommend sticking with the out-of-the-box stuff and using a UI action. So the uncommented UI 16 code, did you uncomment that for the actual use of it? Just asking, by not working, what do you mean? Throws errors, showing not at all? Good questions, Alan. Let's find out a little bit more. Okay, any reason? This is a classic case of a customization giving problems when you get to an upgrade. Okay, be aware that customizations are costly. What I just said. Go replay the last 10 minutes of this video. You shouldn't reference this. No. And risky. Just because you can make a thing work today doesn't mean it's going to work tomorrow. Just saying. Okay, have you considered changing this? What's the URL he's trying to get out of this? Okay, translate.pwc.com. ID, message, text, style, color. Okay, you can style these things. Considered changing this to a UI action. You can style the color with a simple UI macro. And I can help with that if they need. When clicked, go to that. Want it to the right of the chat icon? Go to that URL you had in the href tag. Seems like it ought to work using action.set redirect URL. It's got to be orange and it's got to go to this place. That's like one line of code. Okay, and a little for the UI macro. Integrated search between ServiceNow and WordPress. That's interesting. I wrote a book on WordPress. Oh, it's about 8 years old now. Oh my. Get all references by sysid from all tables. Do what now? Sounds like an intriguing question, or statement actually. Good morning, Steve. I thoroughly enjoyed Knowledge 18. Different perspective this year, looking at it from my new team. Let's see. Get all references by sysid from all tables. I want to delete a record corresponding to a group. To achieve this without any issues by getting references to the record which should be deleted, I need to know where a record is referenced. Is there any way to get a global list of all tables which reference a specific record? There's been a number of ways to do this. One way is to run a background script. Jace. Jace is a very, very smart person. You get a lot of smart people on this. Me, I just have a camera, turn it on, and do what I can. One way is to run a background script to query all table values such as described here. And they are going through sysdbObject, which is the table of tables, and saying, not like TS, they're filtering out any that are not that have TS, which are the text search tables. For each table you find, go get a glide record of that. Get the sysid of the sysid you passed in, find anywhere. I would have taken a slightly different approach, but this would have worked. I think this is great if you find yourself doing it often. Consider installing this scoped app. Look at that. This guy's got it covered. I find that extremely helpful. Okay. So mark it helpful. Something I learned about the new community over the old one is once something was marked helpful before, let's see. Now I might have this backwards. I think the old software, when somebody marked it helpful, you got points every time somebody marked it helpful. And this one is only once, and they're looking to change that. That's what it was. So there are still changes in the pipeline. Good morning, Christopher from Jacksonville. So nice to meet so many of you at Knowledge. It was great putting faces with names. New admin password from the instance help. Oh, I might be able to help with this. Reset admin password does not work. Instant allows only to use the automatically generated password, but not the one set on my profile. The instance is 57071. I might be able to help with that. Dev 51701. Right? That was the number, if I remember right. 51071. Oops. 51071, right? 57071. Wow. I think I've got a Star Trek thing going in my head. 57071. 57071. Boom. You are not logged in. Please log in, Mr. Chuck Tomasi. Two-factor is on my watch. Pardon the slight delay while I waited for it to roll over. And see if I can change that. Somebody else had this problem once before. They would reset it and they'd log in. Steve, I was saying the same thing at the top of the show, that I should probably have some selfies that I put up here. Maybe as a pre-roll, start the stream, and then I'll come on. And because there were a lot. I put together a nice photo album on Google. User, admin, users, search equals admin. Did I ever tell you guys about the shortcuts you can use here? Both here and up here? All right. Just for the sake of information, in case anybody hasn't heard this before, you can use simple strings to query this. I'm going to back that up one size because I did something funky with the header. There are search strings you can use, say the name. And if I say, I'm sure we're all pretty familiar with asterisk. Let me take this out. This is a tutoring moment. A shortcut, tip, trick, and hint. I use these all the time. Many of you do star AND, for example. And I should get Andrew. Here's Bradley Hasselvander. It often gives me more than what I'm looking for. It's like, I just wanted Andrew. Okay, Andrew Jackson was in there somewhere. And I get all this other stuff. Okay, so star is contains. That maps to the contains part of the query. If you want something that doesn't contain, you can use exclamation. And now I will get probably the other 530 people, 557. And you can see Andrew is now gone. LMN, Andrew Jackson is not in the list. It's taken him out. Then, so bang, like you would expect, in a Boolean operator is a not, and it translates that into name does not contain AND. You can also do an exact match. For example, if I know that the user ID, and by the way, these dropdowns correspond to the headers on the list. If you add more headers, you will get more dropdowns. If you take some out, you configure your list format, this will change also. And if you sort, for example, let's go back to all. I'm going to refresh that list. Whatever it's sorted on is what it defaults to. So if I were to sort Z to A on user ID, this correspondingly changes to user ID. We had that discussion a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to sort A to Z on user ID. And if I already know the full extent of this user ID, I can say equals admin. And that, of course, is mapping to user ID equals admin. If I want to do a starts with or an ends with, I can use percent as the wildcard portion of that query. So if it starts with A, I can say A%, and that maps to starts with A. You can see I've got 33 entries. None of them go beyond starting with A. Next page. Ta-da! They go all the way down to Avery Parble. But there are no Bs. And of course, the inverse of that is user ID ends with A, would be %A, and that would be user ID ends with A. That's Athena Fontella, Barcelona, Vidya, Botella, Fortuna. You get the idea. So some shortcuts that can help you with there. Anyway, where was I? Admin. Trying to be helpful. This is the place where I can throw these random things off and nobody says, you're not on script. You've diverted. Your presentation's running too long. I like sharing this kind of stuff, and this is a great venue for it. And if you've got any other hints or tips, please let me know. We were doing our live presentation, and Dave Slusher was looking at the service portal widget form and wanted to get to the designer. And one of the people in the audience said, scroll down. There's a form-related link that takes you to the widget designer. Never saw that. And Service Portal's been out, what now, 2 years? Never saw that before. So very, very crazy how broad and how many things sneak into this platform. And I'm usually in on a lot of that inside support information. Oh, look, Google Drive on this release is not supported. I need to upgrade. And for whatever reason, backup and sync for Google Drive keeps crashing on my Mac. It does like one sync and then goes away. I don't know if I need to make it persistent or what. Anyway, password. Let's see. We can do password. Someone's got to log in. This doesn't make sense. You know what I should really be doing is send me an email. It's ServiceNow.com. So I don't have to post a password in here and someone else hijack your instance. We can converse over there with login credentials in a secure manner. Securer. A more secure way. All right, that had nothing to do with that. Don't often give out my email there because I like to keep things in the thread, but I also don't like to post logins and passwords, and they have the full instance number there. It wouldn't take anybody 15 seconds to go, hey, cool, I'll get there before this guy does, before Pietro Casenti does, and I'll hijack his instance. So do what we can. Try to stay secure. Keep security in mind all the time. I wanted to upgrade the Agile development plugin to Agile 2.0. I wanted to. What happened? Let's find out. Holy large fonts. While upgrading Agile 2.0, it says close all open sprints. As sprints are associated to group as opposed to a release in Agile development, you must close all the open sprints before upgrading to Agile Development 2.0. All open stories and Scrum tasks associated with these sprints should also be completed. In our scenario, the sprints aren't associated to a group. We can go ahead without closing the sprint since there's always an open sprint in the Agile with open stories. Please advise. Beyond my capabilities and knowledge to advise accurately, but it sounds like if you don't have any open or you're not using groups, go ahead or try it on a personal developer instance. There, I do have something that can help. Just in randomly talking to myself and you. Thank you very much. Okay. If you want to run a test, hopefully they're not running on like Geneva or something. Run a test, you can get a personal developer instance running the older version, example, Istanbul, and load up your data, then do a test upgrade to see how it behaves. go to developer.servicenow.com to sign up for a free personal developer instance. That should be a macro. It is quarter of the hour, and I have a couple of things that I want to bring in from older conversations that have a point. Thought I had 3 in here. Okay, apparently I had 2. I have 2 or 3. I was preparing this morning. No, looks like it's only 2. Okay. There was a discussion around GS get property in a client script. Somebody said, I've got an on-change client script and I want to know how to do a property. This is a very old discussion, 2 years ago. It has been, let me get back up to the top. It has been answered. The accepted solution was an AJAX call with an extra trip to the server of the client script, or using a before display business rule and setting GScratchpad would be best. Based on the fact that somebody came back and answered this is a long time ago, 2 years ago. That's about when I started having all this crazy fun in the community. So a few hours ago, I don't know how you pronounce this person's name, Ali Kaiser, put an answer in here, putting an answer to an old post, but hopefully this will help somebody looking for a solution. They said, how to get GS property functionality on client end. Approach using GlideAjax. And GlideAjax will work. I'm not saying this is a bad approach. I'm not saying it won't work. It will work. You can create yourself, of course, the Ajax callable function, the client callable abstract Ajax. This isn't the complete script include for one, so I don't know. Posting this isn't going to help too many people. And then the client side will do the onload function, set up the GlideAjax object, pass the parameters, what property do you want to get, that kind of thing. Very call the function, get the property, then process the response, and it will work. The challenge is it's going to call that and do that script include and do that round trip every time, say, a choice list changes or a checkbox changes. That property isn't going to be changing. Now, if it's dynamically getting property A versus property B versus property C, that's a different situation. And that's not what the intent here was. The intent was, how do I get a property to the client script? And I responded back, I said, yeah, it's a good call, but it's a bit of over-engineering for this particular case because the property isn't going to change. The property is on the server side. Once the server sends the content to your browser, the HTML, the JavaScript, the CSS, it's got everything it needs to keep going. But if it needs to get dynamic information, say, I changed the location on this catalog item, or I changed the location on this form, whatever it be, a record producer catalog item, or a standard form. Run an on-change client script and go get, for example, change the reference qualifier to get just the items that are represented by this location. Maybe it's a list of printers. Maybe it's a list of people for approvers. Whatever it happens to be, you can dynamically change that content. But the property isn't going to be changing. Maybe the property you're getting, the property name is changing. Again, not specified here. But to just go out and get the same static value every time doesn't seem to make sense to me. The better way would be to use a display business rule. Those are the business rules that are run before the form is displayed. In which case, I am going to show you an incident, for example. And before I do that, I get to run any script that I want. One of which is the display business rule that I put in there. And the best use case for this is to pass parameters to the client script. It's a one-time push. Then they have access to it, whether it's an onload client script, to say, oh, this is the ESS view, or your property is set to false. Let me do something on the client side as a reaction to that. One that I've used in the past is determining, are there attachments? The client really doesn't have a way to determine, are there attachments? Even though they're right there on the form, at the top of the form, you will see them, and the client has no clue they're there. Okay, the browser just, yeah, you could do it with some DOM manipulation, but don't do DOM manipulation, kids. Stay in school, don't do drugs, don't do DOM manipulations. There's my public service announcement for today. With the display business rule sets up this object called G_Scratchpad. And it is a blank box in which you can put properties such as the value of whatever property it is they want. Is this on? Is this off? Is it green? Is it red? Is it 1? Is it 50? Whatever it happens to be. And then the client has access to that. So G_Scratchpad dot has attachments. You could run a business rule that says if current dot has attachments, which is a function, current dot has attachments is a glide record function that determines if this record currently has attachments. Pass that to the client and say, all right, you currently have attachments. What do you want to do with it? What do you want to know about it? In this case, they want to pass the value of some property. So rather than saying, oh, this choice list changed, go to the server, get the value of the property, come back and let me know what it is. That's inefficient. That's not necessary. Pass it once when the form is loaded and say, here's the value of your property. Now you can go forward. Hope that made sense. Hope that was a little bit of value. Again, as I read these, I'm going, this is probably worth sharing in the community. There's another one that I want to test, see if we can do this in the next 8 minutes. This is more of a learning exercise for you and me both about UI actions, because I noticed the question is, how can I override a UI action? Okay, I don't want to customize, they say right at the top, I don't want to customize a specific system UI action for a specific table. How do I override it with my custom UI action? And one way is make a copy, deactivate the old one, just uncheck the active button, and continue life with your copy. Make modifications to that one. That's what I proposed as the latest solution. But as a potential solution, depending on the situation, if you're working in a task hierarchy, or a table hierarchy like task, like CMDB CI, you can override the UI action. For example, UI action. Let's go to system definition, UI actions. And I'm going to get out of this scope, go to global, because that's where incident lives. I think I want to also close this. That didn't get saved, but that's okay. That was a prototype app anyway. And my table is incident, again, using our shortcut equals incident. Now, when you see those, you'll recognize what I'm doing. And you'll notice that there's a new on incident. This is a list action, as well as just a list action, not a form action. There's also a new down here, normal list for incidents, related list for incidents. In fact, let's sort these by name, and you'll see, excuse me, there's 3 news, but there's also a new UI action on task. Let me change that task, or let me change that table to also say, messed up my query. Rebuild it this way. Table is one of incident task. If we can spell incident right, it'll work better. Another handy dandy little query thing. I run that. Let's also say, and name is new. Run. Okay. I only have 3 on incident. That's odd. I thought it would have been on task as well. Let's do update. And here's a reason why I use a specific field. Oh, you know what? That's because new and update are actually global. They are available to all tables. But anyway, let's go into that new, sort of giving a crappy demo here. Let's go into new incident here. And we can see that the action name is sysverb under new. This is the name of the action, and it's used in a couple of places. One is to determine, hey, there is a global new UI action for creating new records. There is a global update. There is a global submit. Well, I have one that I want to behave slightly differently on my table. You can override that one by putting in your table and using the exact same action name. And it will say, oh, this one's specific to this table. I'm not going to use the broader one for global or for task or for whatever happens to be. Use the action name and you can override that. What I also noticed down here recently is there is an overrides field. Action being overridden by the current record. So that leads me to believe there may be some overlap in this functionality, and I haven't played with this yet, which is what I want to do. So let's find a crazy application that I haven't used. Oh, maybe the safety application. And let's go create a new UI action. Safety is extended from task, so I'm going to inherit all of those tasks. The issue table on safety is extended. And let's create a new UI action. So configure UI actions, and I should have one or two in here. Yes, that I've done for demo purposes. Let's create another one, and I'm going to call it new. Now I could put in sysverb under insert. These are special names. If they start with sysverb, you know there's something ServiceNow did. You can call these anything you want if it is your UI action. I have set up hierarchical tables before where I have an action name called LMS underscore new. And then later I have an override to LMS underscore new on a child table. Doesn't matter. Just the sysverb means ServiceNow created it. And I am going to do nothing more than make a form link, form button. Let's have fun, and let's do a list banner button. Okay, and I can even call this new star, just so I know it's mine and it's overriding. And we'll do a gs.add_info message. Haha. Told you I'm going to have fun today. And that's it. No conditions, no nothing else. Let's go see if that works. So normally, if I went to the issue table and clicked this new button, oh look, I have a new star. So I would need to somehow disable that one. Let's take a look. I can't do a right click on that. This one, of course, is simply going to say, haha. Didn't really override. That one duplicated. Poor example. Let's go into one of these issues, and I see I have an update button. And down here, I can say, right-click, edit UI action to see the details about that. This is available on the global table. It is sysverb update. It is a form button and shows up when on update. So for my example, let's change my new figure UI actions and change it a little bit. Well, that wasn't any fun. You know what? There it is. Whew. I was hoping I wouldn't have to search too far for it. Let's change that to update star on my table. This should be sysverb update. It's only available on update. It's going to be a button, not that. And see what happens. It's also going to throw me back to the list if I do this. Issue, open. Do I get one or two updates? Hopefully I only get one. I only get one, and it is my asterisk version. So if I click this, it's specific to this table, and it says, haha, goes back to the list because I didn't say stay on the form with the action.set redirect URL. Not a problem, but it shows that I can update that let me, it means it shows that I can override that. Whew. Now, what I want to do is use, instead of the sysverb update method, can I select an override to this? Let's query for table equals global. I haven't used this field yet, so this is brand new territory. This is update, and I'm going to get a bunch. I don't know why my table didn't show up. Show matching as well. And there are two. Both are form buttons, and I don't know which one to pick. Try one? What do you think? I don't even see a, oh, there is a sysid at the bottom. Okay, so I'm picking the one that ends with 2909. I don't know what that's going to do. Let's hit update on that. Go back to the issue table. I just want to know what that overrides button does, so I'm sort of poking. There is an update and there is an update regular. Either I didn't pick the right one or this isn't doing what I think, so let's go pick the other one. Edit UI action. Overrides. Query, we'll build the query and say name is update. And make that capital just in case. Table is global. Yes, there actually is a table called global. And we'll pick the other one. So that was the first one that ended with 2909. This one ends with, interesting. This is for post update. That's, oh, I gotta see that. That was interesting. And it still shows me too. So I clearly don't know what that field does, and it's not in the docs that I can find yet. We're going to find out, and I will get back to you on tomorrow's show. But since that introduced an interesting dilemma, let me copy, come on, copy URL. It was either this one or the other one. I'm going to go to my text editor. I want to show you something that I spotted on that URL on the bottom. We're in overtime. That's okay. Delete that, paste in the new one. Okay, sysui action to do sysid 2909. That was one of them. Where's my other one? Sysui action.list. Name equals update. Let's hit an enter there. Show matching on table is global. And I have two of them. I think that was the one that sparked my interest. Copy URL. Check this out. sysid equals sysverb post update. That's not a sysid. Sysids look like this. This 32-bit or 32 character hex value. That's the second sysid I've seen in the entire system that does not look like a sysid. Very interesting. Very interesting. The other one is the default view. Under sysui view has a default, it has a sysid of default. I'd love to hear the backstory behind that from one of the original coders, how that got to be. Somebody's probably banging out some code in the middle of the night and said, I need this. So on that note, I am going to, I think we got to about 3 or 4 things, which is typical for this show. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it very much. And I will, with any luck, see you tomorrow. There won't be any shows next week because I'll be on PTO. I'll be taking some time off after knowledge. It's good to decompress. This is sort of an in-between week where I come home, make sure the laundry's clean, do any odd jobs around the house, try to set things up so they're ready to go when I come back, and I'm not spending half of June spinning my wheels trying to finish things for the quarter. Too much information there. Short answer is, thanks for joining. See you tomorrow. If you learned something, share it, help. That's what the community is all about. Whether you do that in the community or your own organization, you will be a hero. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye now.